things to pray for at this time. Lord, we ask you to, our prayers go out for our esteemed colleague, C.B. Embry. Please heal him, and hold him in your arms. Dear Lord, we ask you your guidance in these legislative matters that come before us, that we do the right things that's pleasing to you. Lord, thank you again for all the many, many, many blessings you give us and bestowed upon us. We ask you in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the Secretary now to call the roll, please.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Hornback, Senator Parrott.
Here.
Senator Webb, Senator Westerfield, Representative Brown, Representative King.
Present.
Representative Pratt. Here. Representative Reed. Representative Roberts.
Present.
Chair Embry and Chair Dossett.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, can I have introduce a, she's,
Yes, Senator
Okay.
Parrott, go right ahead.
she's not really a guest, but my youngest daughter, Kristen, over here, stand up, Kristen. This is our youngest daughter, and if she could be up here every day, I don't know why, but she would be up here every day. And she loves this place, and she smiles every time. If you meet Kristen's been through a lot of stuff in her life, but she smiles like that every single day. I wish we all could. So, thanks, Chris. I'll be in trouble now. So.
Kristen, I'm glad you're here, and I'll share with you. My granddaughter has been coming with me since she was 2 years old, and she loves this coming here, whether it's here to the annex, going into the Capitol. It thrills her every time she makes the trip up. So I know your dad's so proud that you're here with him as well. We don't have a quorum yet, so we may have to come back and revisit. If we have another member show up, we'll come back and revisit approval over minutes. But we will begin. Ask Brian Lacefield, the Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, and Bill McCloskey, the Deputy Executive Director, to come forward and make your presentation, please.
Good morning. Brian Lacefield, Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, and it's great to be back here with you all. Seems like we just left. I think Bill and I were here back the end of May, so this one rolled around pretty quick, but we don't have near the items to go over. Last time we were with you, we were playing catch-up from January on. Senator Parrott, I've got a couple folks joining us, too, today that I thought give chance to recognize. We had last time here both of our interns that are joining us for the summer, Isaiah Pruitt from LaRue County and Abigail Mattingly from Hardin County. Washington County. Springfield. Debbie Wakefield will have me for that one. I'm sorry for that slip there. I'll tell you that. And then Hannah Johnson is our boards and events manager, and she's the one coordinating everything now with Oversight Committee, and she'll be joining us on a regular basis. But Senator Parrott, where you were talking about Kristen and loving being up here, and Chairman Dossett talking about your granddaughter, I've got my son, Braden, joining us here. There, the sharp young man in the blue blazer there to the back. And he's another one that has really taken an interest in policy and all things going on. Brought him last week to the Joint Ag Committee, and he really enjoyed that. And I said, well, you can come see us another day. So he's spending the day with us. And Braden, this will be the most exciting part of the day. The rest of the Zoom meetings won't be that exciting. Busy times as usual with what we've got going on at the shop with everything. We talked about the new round of funding that has come in that have been allocated now to all the counties. So as the counties have all their allocations, we're back into the county council meetings going across the state. And as I share with you every month about our travels across the state, there's a lot going on in Kentucky, and Kentucky's a big state when you start trying to cover it every county at a time. I believe we set our record for number of county council meetings in one day. We had 12 in one day, and we can do a head count real quick at our staff. We're 15 strong on if everybody's present. And the KOAP team was able to make 10 of those spread across the county to be there. We do try to make every county council meeting possible with some member of our team there, just to assist in the facilitation of the meeting. Our partners with the UK A&R extension agents across the state do a great job with that, but been a lot of turnover, a lot of new agents starting on. So we with our history and experience like to try to be there as questions come up and eligible projects and things. We can save a lot of time by talking through them at the time instead of waiting till they come up to the office. So we're not able to make every one, and sometimes we do have to prioritize based on what items are on the agenda or what else we can do as we're traveling the state. But that's with projects and programs and our loans. Literally in every county there is something going on that we need to be looking at, inspecting, or checking up on. So we try to group our travel and be as efficient as possible with what we do. But it is the kind of the reason that gets us out on the road. I know last year Bill and I had one county council meeting. It was a 30-minute meeting right in the middle of wheat harvest, Chairman, and we had 18 other stops that we did in I think 8 different counties around there as we traveled. Kentucky Ag Finance had its monthly board meeting last week, and we're seeing an uptick in our interest in our loan programs. We saw what the Federal Reserve has done with raising rates. We're watching the 10-year Treasury. I look at that every morning when I get up. We're seeing interest rates are moving up. When interest rates moving up, our interest rate becomes even more and more attractive. All of our loans are priced at 2% with a 75 basis point servicing fee added on that the banks are able to retain, that 0.75%, but the customer's paying 2.75% fixed for 15 years. So that's it's historically been an attractive rate, and it gets more attractive as commercial rates continue to increase. But we had 13 different loans approved last month for $3.5 million. Now, again, that's our portion of that. So the most we will do of a project is up to 50%. So it's closer to $10 million in total projects happening in Kentucky with either farm purchases or infrastructure being added to a farm that was approved last month, and we expect this to continue. Also made just some tweaks to some of our loan programs to make them a little bit more inclusive and expansive to encourage more participation. And one that is a topic that we're very well aware of as an issue in Kentucky is our underserved markets with veterinarians, for large and food animal veterinarians. We've had a program for about a decade, I think, Bill, that has been in place to work with a veterinarian to buy into an existing operation, with the hope there of having an equity stake, and the community would be an incentive for them to stay in. Also can be utilized, this program, for buying equipment that would be specific to large and food animal needs. But it, like all of our other programs, requires matching dollars coming in from the other lender, the other portion of that. A decision was made through meetings and visiting to maybe find ways to work with other projects or other ways to utilize this program and utilize the existing student loan debt that these veterinarians have as they come out of school. It's nothing to have $150,000, $200,000 in student loan debt coming out after you finish this professional degree, and you've got a big liability on your balance sheet, and you can't put that corresponding asset on the other side of the ledger there, where you've got your future earning powers on doing this. So we've opened that up now to where we could do 100% of the project if there's the same amount of student loan debt that would offset this. So up to $250,000, again, could do that, the 15-year loan, 2.75%. We still need a bank to actually service the loan and handle the paperwork. But we've rolled that out. We've had a chance to talk with the Veterinary Medical Association, and we're going to talk at their annual meeting and share that. But it's met with favorable response. So we're to date, we've done, I think, 15 loans in this program, and we look forward to expanding that. Speaking of the veterinary problems and concerns with the underserved areas, we had a stakeholders meeting yesterday with various groups that was facilitated by the commissioner and the KDA to bring in all the folks that maybe can work together to come up with some ways to expand opportunities for coming in. And it was a great first meeting. Probably had 60, 70 folks in attendance, and had a morning full of speakers, and some brainstorming ideas came up. I think there'll be some follow-up meetings with that on ways that even we can be able to participate in this issue with ag development funds. We have our joint meeting coming up. I'll extend an invitation to all committee members and staff. We've got some of the team joining us tomorrow at the Ag Development Board meeting. But July 15th, we will have our be a joint meeting. We'll have both boards, Ag Finance and Ag Development, together. And Representative King, for those that were part of the Agriculture Committee last week, we had Dr. Will Snell speak and gave a fantastic presentation of inflation and the impact that it's having in the ag community, and will be present in our rural economies across the state. Well, Bill and I were on the same page. We both leaned up at the conclusion of that and said we need to get him in front of both of our boards. So Dr. Snell will be opening the meeting with his presentation. So that one will be here in Frankfort at the Franklin County Extension Office. And I will stop with that, and then we'll turn it over and let Bill go through some of our projects.
Before we begin, Bill, we have a quorum, and I'd like to move on with our minutes. If I can have a motion on the approval of our minutes for May 2nd. All those in favor? The minutes pass. There we go. Now, Bill, please.
All right, we'll start on page 1 with an update on programs that are approved at the May Ag Development Board. You can see it rolls over into the second page here, $3,332,393. And also would point out 2 counties are listed here twice, which represents county money and state money. So looking at McCreary County, it's the 3rd county listed. So there's $23,901 in state money. And then when you look at Leslie County, again, they've got some state money allocated to them. This comes back to several years ago, the Ag Development Board decided to commit some state funds to help counties to get less than $30,000. Back in 2019, it was a 2-year commitment. Feedback on those investments gave justification to continue to do that. So for this year, any county that receives under $30,000 was brought up to a level of $30,000 to be able to run some programs. So as we pointed out in the past, there's been 2 counties, Knott and Pike, that did not grow any burley tobacco, so they have not received money on a county allocation for the 20-year period. And so this allowed them to have some funds to be able to offer cost share programs to producers or farmers in those 2 counties as well as other counties. I know the committee asked what were they doing with the monies that they've been provided with. They've administered, at least in eastern Kentucky, it's been the CAPE program. You can see McCreary County and Leslie County here are going to offer the cost share program this year. And then we did mention Hickman County and Fulton County supported 2 high school projects. So that's an update on the CAPE program. Now, if you look at the next generation, there was just 1 county, Henry County Cattlemen's Association, was approved for $60,000. So the next generation farmer program, or we refer to it as Next Generation, it allows the county to take some of their allocation and target beginning farmers. Those are farmers between the age of 18 and 40. So for last year, 2021, we did have 8 counties that did utilize this program, again, to target their beginning farmers. under the Youth Ag Incentives Program. You can see we have 7 counties approved for $102,000. So the youth program was started about 2017 when we worked with funded several counties that were doing their own youth programs. So the board directed staff to look at coming up with a structured youth program. So we did that and rolled it out about 2017. And so we've seen counties continue to show interest in this program. We'll start in 17, 18 counties. In 2018, 24 counties utilized the program. 19, 23, 2020, it was 25. And then last year was 32 counties used some of their county money to support the youth program. And to give you an idea of the guidelines for the youth program, the funds that are allocated to the county are divided among the youth applicants on a prorated basis. So it's not a scoring matrix, because the board's thought was you would have the age bracket is 9 to 18, and so having a 9-year-old scoring against or competing against a 16-year-old wouldn't be fair. So the way it was structured was to prorate the money out among the eligible applicants. It's a 50-50 cost share basis. They have to provide documentation of expenses. That's canceled checks and invoices, just like we do in the CAPE program. So cash is not eligible. Some of the other eligibility requirements have to be enrolled in elementary, middle school, or high school, and this can also include homeschooled students as well. As I mentioned, age is 9 to 18. You have to have a Social Security number to be eligible. Have to have parental consent, and then there's a mentor requirement as part of either 4-H or FFA or some agricultural organization. I'm just reading off our guidelines that are available on our website. And then they're also required to make a presentation to their mentor and their peers. They're also required to participate in an educational session, working with 4-H, FFA, leadership or community service, or marketing promotion is also a requirement. And as far as what is eligible in the youth program, a greenhouse, horticulture production. So this would line up with the over 50 greenhouses that we've funded over the years. And our generation probably worked in tobacco. Now youth are given other opportunities. The horticulture is certainly one of those. So with the investment the county's made in greenhouses, this kind of lines up with those investments as well. Having a youth program where they can get involved in greenhouse production, horticulture, hydroponics, and aquaponics. Aquaponics or hydroponics, Representative Reed, I know LaRue County's used some of their county money to develop a hydroponics operation there at the LaRue County High School. Then also value-added marketing, wildlife management, getting in animal production. It can be beef and dairy, purchase of breeding stock, or market animals. Bulls are not eligible in this program. Then, of course, as you might expect, goats, equine, sheep, rabbit, swine, and poultry. Obviously, that fits in well with the youth. Bees, and then improvements to livestock barns. And then showmanship is also supported in this program. Equipment and supplies, including a generator, handling supplies and equipment, tack, and show attire. Senator Webb is to support the showmanship part of it. And then the ham, as we're all aware, there's a lot of ham projects going on. This certainly is eligible in this program. Anyway, so that gives you an update on the youth program. So that concludes the programs, and then we have a couple of projects. Let's go to program amendments on page 3. So Casey County Conservation District originally approved for $315,000 when they were approved last year, and so they've added with the new money $240,000 to bring total money available in Casey County $555,000 to support the CAPE program. In Fayette County, originally approved for $175,000, requested $40,000 to bring the total to $215,000. And then Owen County, which recently approved for $50,000, and then they're requesting some of their new money, $265,000, to bring it to a total of $315,000. So you can see Owen County Farm Bureau is the entity administrator in the program. They requested $50,000, and that's probably the amount that they had in the account at that time. And that allows them to start the promotion of the program, start taking applications, anticipating the new money coming in, so they can, if they're on a timeline, to be able to make the program available earlier than we received the master settlement agreement. Again, a block of money can be used to start that process and then come back later and amend it when we get the master settlement agreement payment in. So that's the strategy that Owen County here has put together. Moving on, a couple of projects to update you on. Page 4 is Gab Meat Processing was approved for $5,000 in Butler County, purchasing some equipment to start a meat processing facility in Butler County. This individual has already purchased the building in Butler County with a local lender, so he requested these funds to start a custom operation. Talked to him here this week, and he expects to request additional funds as to expand his operation and go more towards a USDA inspected facility. So you'll probably be hearing more from him in the future. All right, next on page 5, we've got the Sugarloaf Mountain Meats and Processing in Rowan County. So they were approved for $224,850 in state funds to purchase a poultry processing unit called a plant in a box. So that's a self-contained unit that's delivered and allows them to start processing poultry. So the background for this applicant to get here to you today and before you today, they had several requirements that our board put in place when we were looking at the interest we had in individuals that want to get in the meat processing business. So one of the several requirements was they had to work with KCAR, Kentucky Center for Agriculture and Rural Development, on a business plan. Once they got the business plan completed, then they had to work with a meat consultant specialist or expert that we had hired through the RFP process, request for proposals. And this individual had over 30 years experience in the meat processing business, currently lives in Georgia. So once we got the business plan application, the business plan in, and then this individual, the meat processing consultant, would meet with the applicant, review their business plan, then make recommendations, make observation recommendation on how to move the business forward. And then the applicant had a chance to respond. Then we presented this information to the Meat Processing Expansion Committee, which is our board members. Then they would make a recommendation to the full board on whether to fund the project or not. So here we have the application today after they've gone through all this process, and this will be processing poultry in Eastern Kentucky. Senator Webb, it's our understanding from some of our colleagues that work in the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and work with the Kentucky Proud program and work with producers across the state, there is a need for poultry processing in the state. So the board feels like this is going to really be able to address it. These two individuals are part of this business, are young men that have off-farm jobs, have the resources to be able to make this work. They have been processing their own poultry, and like a lot of any startup processor, get a lot of calls once they find out you're processing livestock. Can you do this, this, and this? And so they saw this as an opportunity. And as you can see, they were successful in securing a USDA grant of $200,000. So between Ag Development Fund money and the USDA money, most of the project is funded, and we think that this increases their probability this project will be successful and make an impact in Kentucky. That to producers that are growing poultry, raising poultry, and may want to raise poultry in the future if they know they've got a processor in the area, Representative King. So they were approved for $224,850. The next project I'm going to let Brian present, since I have trouble pronouncing this correctly. So go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Bill and I have realized there's some regional differences in our speaking and dialect. But Chairman, if you were going to refer to the county seat in Trigg County, how would you do that? That's the way I call it. Bill puts a little more flair on it. So I made a comment in the board meeting, and I've been paying for it ever since. So, but I'm proud of this project, and that is one of the counties I literally lived next to, in Caldwell and Christian, for the majority of my life, and was working there prior to coming to this part of the state with ag policy work. And this came out of a recognized need from the local leadership group that was going through the Trigg County leadership, and they saw this need, wanted to do a project, and reached out, talked to our office about it, and this now will be our 73rd county that we've had state funds going in to help with a farmers market, and this is going to help 10 producers right now. I think the opportunity for this to grow. They're having over 100 customers coming to the facility right now every day that they're open. We do ask that the counties put in some money. Trigg County did allocate $1,000 to it, $92,500 coming in from state funds, and the rest is being raised by donation. They've locked in the biggest part of this. Still have $13,000 pending, but the class is working hard to get this taken care of. So excited about this farmers market, and look forward to being down to cut the ribbon on another one.
Bill, we'll forgive you right there.
In the city of Cadiz.
That's flair.
There's not a problem with that. I laugh whenever Brian mentioned that, because I knew what was going to be said. And my mother, who is she was a former resident of Cadiz before she moved to the wonderful community of Pembroke after she married my dad, she would have fussed at me if I had pronounced Cadiz the way you did. We've got some questions. Oh, before we start right here, Representative King, I just want to, Braden, welcome. We're so happy you're able to be here with your dad today. But Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is a comment and a brief question, if that's okay. Going back to the poultry processing project and the many steps that you went through, I think that's why your programs are so successful, as you do all that background work and dot all the I's and cross the T's. For the good of the group, and you may not know the exact numbers, can you just help us review of how successful and the low default numbers you have on your loans and those kind of things for the good of the group?
Well, since Bill's been here since every one of them have been done, I will defer to him.
Well, I think we've processed 1,500 loans, and we've had 4 loans that we've had to write off in that process. So I could probably tell you every one of them is like a football coach would tell you, you know the wins, but you really remember the losses. So we worked through those.
And I put that brag on our partnering lenders that we work with in these projects. I have been one of these partnering lenders. That's how Bill and I got to know each other 16, 18 years ago, working at Planters Bank there with my first project. There's a lot of work on the lenders for doing this, and so there's a pretty good vetting process with it, and then having the mentor requirement that we have with our beginning farm loan program, and that's 2/3 of the loans in our portfolio. I think is another added benefit to it. Well, so we've got good processes, procedures, and oversight, but we've got fantastic partners.
Absolutely. Well, all of that in whole is what makes all of these programs successful. So I wanted to make sure the committee members and the public watching at home understood how successful these programs are. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the comments.
Senator Webb.
I have a couple, if I may, Mr. Chairman. First of all, what kind of programs are the Cattlemen's Association doing in these counties? Did you give me an idea of what kind of, other than the equipment, showmanship components? I mean, is there...
Well, for the programs we presented today, or the programs, is you have to have an entity administer the program, so it's kind of a decentralized process where the county councils have the ability to commit the money to a project. So we can have different entities administer the programs. It can be the Conservation District is the entity that probably administers most of the CAPE programs. In some cases where the leadership comes out of the Cattlemen's Association to administer the program, but you've got the several programs. Obviously, of the $19 million that will be allocated to the counties, history indicates about 80 to 85% of it will be invested in the CAPE program. And then they have the dead animal removal program.
Particularly the youth ag incentive programs, when they take the 20,000 in Henry County. What kind of thing are they going to be doing with that?
It's probably going to be livestock production.
Okay.
Henry County is a predominantly cattle operation, so you're going to have youth that are going to be utilizing those funds to purchase heifers.
Okay, that's a good thing. We're talking about financing. How do we anticipate interest rates affecting the program?
Well, as I mentioned, when
Mr. Banker Man.
It's going to drive interest from both standpoints. Of it's going to be more advantageous to the customer. They're going to be asking their bankers about it, going to be looking into it, and as we're working on cash flows, to mitigate and to be able to get things to work, having the lower cash flow is going to, or the lower interest rate will result in lower payment and more ability to service the other component of the loan, the non-participated part.
Are we seeing any decline in applications due to present costs in the global climate and the impacts of inflation? Is that affecting our applicant pool at this point, or do you anticipate it will?
I will say that we'll probably see the increased need for borrowed money to operate.
I think for last year we saw it slow down a little bit because the banks had so much cash on hand, and so
and producers as well, coming from the rounds of the USDA Farm Service Agency payments with the coronavirus food assistance program, 2 rounds of funding. The second one literally touched every component of Kentucky agriculture. We're receiving payments, and then add on top of that the PPP program that were eligible. We were finding that cash balances both on businesses and then those are stored in a bank. So core deposits were up with a lot of our community banks across the state. So we were seeing we got asked the first time well, how do we wanted to buy participation back, that the 2.75%, they wanted to have that on their books. And we said, well, that's real easy. You can just pay us off. So it's not a complicated process. But that was a first for Bill in his lifetime with the Ag Finance Program.
And I think we saw the Federal Reserve increase interest rates, and so that's probably going to result in additional applications for our program because, as Brian mentioned, we're at 2.75%. Fixed rate up to 15 years, and we will amortize up to 25 years. So I think those factors are going to result in additional interest for our loan program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to allude to conversations that we've had not only here in Frankfort, but even in my community. Secretary Ball was up there this week, and at the chamber meeting, we discussed this issue, and we talked about it in natural resources. And that's the ability, financing impact on certain sectors that have been infiltrated by ESG, I think is the terminology. It's particularly in fossil fuels. We were having those conversations in natural resources, and then Secretary Ball was up there, and we were having a conversation about that at the chamber meeting. So I had to chime in on the animal agriculture side because we are seeing some impact of that too, where agenda-driven anti-use, anti-animal production, animal use are infiltrating some of the financial sectors, much like they've done the fossil fuel. So I think that I just felt compelled to mention that and something to be mindful of moving forward for animal production and utilization, and see if you have any thoughts on that.
I have a lot of thoughts on that. I was following along with your train of thought. I think it's something we're going to have to continue to keep an eye on and work to navigate through. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Parrott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Bill, is K-Card still working with the folks in E-Town on a lot of projects that we used to through K-Card there in E-Town?
Yeah, they're working statewide.
Okay.
They've evolved themselves to be the expert as far as working with agribusinesses or farmers that want to develop direct-to-consumer marketing programs. They're the go-to organization.
I just don't hear a lot at home about us, but everybody else. But
Well, there have most of those, I guess, 12 employees now, maybe 14, and they're funded through the Ag Development Fund, and USDA provides funding for that, so they can provide these valuable services on these business plans. And we see applications all the time coming in, and I'll describe them as undeveloped business plan, and that means go straight to K-Card and work through their business plan and then bring it back, and we'll work through it with them. So, but they've got staff all over the state.
wow. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the committee members? If not, Bill, Brian, thank you very much. Braden, once again, thank you for being here. I hope your dad brings you back over to Christian County, perhaps into next week or the following week. The Western Kentucky State Fair begins on the 24th, June 24th through July 2nd. So I hope I get to see you, Brian, over revisiting.
Well,
Christian County.
we do try to get back as often as we can. I think the one for sure that's on the calendar is the rodeo coming up in August. That was a condition upon us moving across the state, as we still could go back for rodeo weekend.
Thank you both very much. Next, we will have a presentation concerning farm to food banks, and ask Sarah Vaughn, Director of Farm to Food Banks Program for Feeding Kentucky, if she would come forward, or Cassidy Wheeler, who is Advocacy Coordinator for Feeding Kentucky. Please come to the table, and if you'll both introduce yourselves.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you so much for having us here. So my name is Cassidy Wheeler. For those of y'all who don't know me, I'm the advocacy coordinator. So I was up here every day during the session this year. But I'm here today to talk to y'all about some of the projects that we've got going on here at Feeding Kentucky. And I'll hand it over to my colleague Sarah to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone.
Yep, turn your microphone on. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me today. My name is Sarah Vaughn, and I am the Programs Director for the Farms to Food Banks program at Feeding Kentucky. So I help coordinate deliveries between the farmers to the food banks.
Pretty self-explanatory name. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start by kind of talking to you, giving you an overview of hunger across the Commonwealth, and then we'll kind of delve into, the way we address it and a couple of our different programs. So 1 in 6 Kentuckians experience hunger and food insecurity. Obviously that is a huge number and one that we're working to get down. And we know that vulnerable groups experience that rate even higher. So 1 in 5 Kentucky kids, experience hunger. And we have the second highest rate of food insecurity among elderly folks. So, the majority of Kentuckians who are experiencing hunger are, frequently single moms with kids, elderly Kentuckians, disabled Kentuckians. So we're always trying to consider, right, how these vulnerable groups, what the factors are that are causing hunger. So here you can see counties in Kentucky by food insecurity rates. So those are the top counties that experience food insecurity at the highest rates. And you can see in the map, obviously, Eastern Kentucky, Southeastern Kentucky, that's where hunger is the highest. The counties that are dark green, that indicates that more than 50% of folks there qualify for SNAP. So here you can see, right, this is kind of the key for the chart, right? So, the light green talks about, right, this is like, we have less levels of hunger in those counties that are light green. And, it says here 33% of folks who live there are above, other nutrition program thresholds of 185% poverty levels. So, these people aren't qualifying for a lot of nutrition programs. And then kind of the mid-level green, that's between 130% to 180% poverty. And then, like I said before, the dark green is more than half of the folks qualify for SNAP. So again, if we go back and look at this, we see that we've got a lot of dark green or mid-level green across the state. Okay, and then obviously we know too that the pandemic has exacerbated that, right? So, nationally, Feeding America estimates that food insecurity is increased by 18%. We've seen even more than that here in Kentucky, and our food banks have estimated that they've experienced a 30% average increase in demand. So, the pandemic has put a serious strain on our food banks and pantries, and that's something that we're working with them to combat. So I'll turn it over to Sarah and let her talk about some of our responses.
Okay, so here is a map of our member food banks that shows their service areas across the state. So Feeding Kentucky is a statewide organization, but we partner with these 7 food banks that together serve all 120 counties in Kentucky. And we serve, on average, 50,000 Kentuckians each week, like our entire network does. And last year we distributed, or actually I believe this was in fiscal year 2020, we distributed 79 million meals to Kentuckians in need. And to talk a little bit about our needs, we can always use funds for cold storage, and building more brick and mortar buildings to store the food in. And then also the pandemic kind of led to us having some more flexibility in school and federal nutrition programs, and having that flexibility was really welcomed and appreciated. And so I'll talk a little bit more about our Farms to Food Banks program. And basically, like I said, it takes agricultural products from a farmer's needing a market and distributes those to Kentuckians in need. And there's 3 main goals for the Farms to Food Banks program. That is to increase access to healthy, nutritious produce to people who are in need of it, and also to support the farmers by providing them with a reimbursement that helps cover their expenses for harvesting, packaging, and transporting the products to our facilities. And then lastly, it helps to reduce waste by taking excess or number 2 or what you call ugly produce and distributing that to people who can use it. And so last year we distributed 3.3 million pounds of produce across the state. We accepted 28 different types of fruits and vegetables. We also distributed some meat, cheese, and eggs. We've started since the pandemic. We have received some outside grant funding that we can use to help purchase protein items, which has been very appreciated by the food banks, because those are often items that are more expensive to purchase for our families that we serve. And we distributed produce to all 120 counties, and we spent about $878,000 on produce purchases. And then our impact on the farmers. So we worked with 332 farmers from 57 different counties last year, and 14 of those farmers received more than $10,000, but on average, farmers received about $2,000 throughout the course of the year. And the farmer that received the most got $158,000. So it really just depends on how much excess you have. And that particular farmer that got 158, he was bringing meat, eggs, and produce pretty much on a consistent basis throughout the whole year. And since 2011, we have rescued over 27 million pounds of food through the Farms to Food Banks program, which equates to about 45 million meals. We've worked with more than 1,000 Kentucky farmers and have distributed over $5.8 million back into the the local economy. And here are a list of some of our funders. So we're thanks to the Kentucky General Assembly, we get funding from them, and then Farm Credit, Community Foundation, and we have a few others that are not listed.
Yeah, and of course, we know this is a really amazing program because folks who live in poverty are so much more likely to not have nutritious meals. So this is especially impactful in that it gets folks, fresh produce and protein, and it's locally grown. So, and like I said, we are very cognizant here at Feeding Kentucky of the vulnerable groups who experience hunger at higher rates in Kentucky. So we have an entire program dedicated to making sure that children across the Commonwealth are fed, called the Kentucky Eats program. Sorry, Kentucky Kids Eat program. That's important. So yeah, like I said, 1 in 5 children in Kentucky experience hunger. So we're working to make sure that they get fed every single day of the year, whether that's, connecting them to school meals or getting them, feeding sites across the summer. So we partner with No Kid Hungry, which is a national organization, that's dedicated to eradicating child hunger. And they offer a lot of really awesome resources, trainings, different, advocacy materials right now, because like Sarah said, during the pandemic, we had a lot of really awesome flexibilities. But right now, the federal government has declined to continue some of them. So specifically about school meal reimbursement, the different kind of waivers for child feeding. So we're kind of scrambling right now to make sure that kids don't miss out, because we do know that summer is the hungriest time for Kentucky kids. So No Kid Hungry has this really cool hotline where you can text text food or comida to 304-304, and they'll connect you with a summer meal site near you. So parents can text that and find out, where they can get free meals for their kids and stop by. So that's a really great resource. And, we're advising Kentuckians right now on how they can make sure their kids get fed this year, because they have to go back to meal sites and eat there, and not all schools are doing them this year for a variety of different reasons. So we have a lot less sponsors and a lot less sites this summer. So our Kentucky Kids Eat person, Kate McDonald, is really working super tirelessly trying to make sure that all kids across the state have access to food this summer. So one of the successes we had this year is our school breakfast bill. So this has been in the works for a couple of years now. Last session, this came up, but it kind of died and didn't get passed. But this year, it came back to the General Assembly and it passed, and we're very excited about this. So the school breakfast bill basically makes it clear, it codifies that school districts can use up to 15 minutes of instructional time for kids to eat school breakfast. So some districts were already doing this. The legislation that existed before was just very vague. So basically this bill just clarified that. So this will be really great for, a lot of kids aren't accessing school breakfast for a variety of different reasons. And especially right now with school bus shortages, a lot of kids aren't getting to school in time to get breakfast. I know, so I was a teacher before I started working in advocacy, and I know my old school district has so few bus drivers that they have to do at least 2 different trips, so the kids who are coming in kind of that second wave, they're getting to school often late. So the districts who don't allow breakfast after the bell, those kids just weren't getting breakfast. So this is going to be really revolutionary for Kentucky kids. And I think, in the past, it's been nearly 70% of kids who eat school lunch don't eat school breakfast. And I think that ends up being almost 300,000 kids who are missing out on school breakfast. So that's pretty significant, right? And we know, too, that school breakfast really positively impacts kids. So they miss less school, they do much better on test scores, but also kids who eat breakfast are 20% more likely to graduate high school. So not only are they, doing better as their time as students, but obviously that's a huge impact on their adult life, right? We are making better Kentuckians, who are going to have more opportunities. So we know how important breakfast is to Kentucky kids. So we partnered with a lot of different organizations to get this done. We worked with Tusk and Run Switch, headed up by Trey Grayson, and our partners in the General Assembly. Senator Howell was our sponsor. So we were very excited, and we're very thankful for, all of our partners who made that happen. And we're very, thankful to y'all for passing this. We think it's going to make a huge difference. So this will be left up to school districts to decide. So we're talking right now with superintendents across the Commonwealth to kind of help guide that decision on whether or not they want to implement this for their school district. We're really, glad that this is giving schools flexibility basically to do what needs to be done for their school. And there are a few different kinds of school breakfast options they can implement. So like I said, it's a very flexible system, and will be really great for schools to kind of, determine what needs they have and then how best to address them. Yes, so this is our contact information. So, obviously feel free to shoot us an email. You can always visit our website and find out more information about us there, or you can give us a call. Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you. And we have some questions. Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just yesterday, I was reading a report about the summer feeding program at the federal level, and just two of the changes that are sticking with me today are a child can only have one meal per visit now, and they have to eat it on site, which is my understanding different than maybe we've had the last couple of summers. You did touch on this, but can you tell me how that will affect our Kentucky kiddos this summer, and are those changes immediate? I mean, our summer feeding programs in Kentucky are just going to be different this time?
Yeah, so what you're referring to is called congregate feeding. So yeah, it's basically where the kids have to eat the meal on site. So that requirement has been waived the past 2 years because of the pandemic, right? Obviously we weren't gathering together. We didn't want the kids, around each other, spreading things around. But yeah, I mean, we're very concerned about going back to that because, that waiver has been amazing for kids, right? Because, for little kids who maybe are staying with like older siblings or, they don't have parents around, they don't want their younger children sent, somewhere without, right, like, if they don't have transportation, they don't want them walking to a meal site. And, also a lot of times, it just becomes, it's more cumbersome, right, to try and get to a place with your kid and stay there. And sometimes, these sites are awesome because you can have a congregate meal site like at a library, so you could take your kid there for the day and there's activities. But a lot of these sites are kind of just like random places in the community that are specifically for eating meals. And, during the pandemic, we had a really great system where schools could distribute meals via bus, right? And they could take the bus routes and deliver them straight to the kids' houses. But unfortunately, yeah, that's not something. Yeah, we have to have a waiver to do that, and the USDA and Congress have declined to extend those waivers. So we are very concerned about that, and I do think that that's part of the reason why we have so many fewer sponsors and meal sites, because there are so many more requirements that, first of all, some of these sites and sponsors just won't ever meet them with how, without the waivers, the way that the requirements are, they won't meet them. But other places, they just don't have the manpower to do that, right? So they don't have enough people to distribute the food, to be at the meal site. They don't have the resources. Again, we know that these places that provide meals largely are schools or, something like that. We know that they're already very understaffed. So yeah, we're very concerned about that. And so these waivers expire at the end of June. Technically, June 30th is the last day. But a lot of the folks that I've talked to, prior to summer beginning, they were already being advised just not to use any of the waivers from the start of summer, right? So that they don't have to change in the middle and people get confused. And yeah, so technically, like I said, the waivers haven't expired yet, but I think most of our meal sites have already, are treating it as if they are expired. So yeah, we are super concerned about that. And the reality is that there are going to be a lot more hungry kids this summer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Webb.
Thank y'all, and thank you for what you do. But the dark green up there really troubles my heart and makes me very sad because I'm the only member of this committee east of I-75. Okay, I practice law in Hazard. I was there yesterday and in that area, and I think it's going to get worse with inflation. And then the national news report I saw today doesn't bode well for the entire country with the food bank crisis, I think they called it. So I think that's what we could be getting here for the need with the fuel prices and heating, air prices, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't see many cars on the road yesterday. That's not a good sign in East Kentucky. So I'm interested in participation. And if somebody could get me a map of farmers that are participating, where they are, and a map of participating counties. I think there were 57, or was that number? Did I? The county participation rates and where the farmers are that are participating. Once I feel it's my place to look into that and perhaps see how we can better incent or encourage or reach out or educate farmers in East Kentucky or promote along with our other programs to fill that need as we try to transition from the coal economy. So I don't think that situation is going to get better. I think it's probably going to get a little worse before it bottoms out. And again, as an East Kentucky and I represent all of East Kentucky, and it's very near and dear to me, and I just appreciate what you all are doing. But if there's any way that we can assist in doing that, I think we need to really be creative and put some energy into identification, reaching out, and then filling the void. So thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Webb. Are there any other questions? I want to thank you both for what you do. I think all of us wish we did not need food banks, but we're so appreciative that they're available to help our Kentucky families. And as Senator Webb mentioned, what we're seeing now with the inflationary issues that have come that are here in our state and in the country itself, we know this is impacting people's ability to be able to, with the increased prices to things on the shelf at the grocery, it's impacting so negatively of what we're able to purchase there to put in our cupboards at home. I know we're experiencing it at our house, and to see these children, that could possibly go hungry, it's heartbreaking. But I want to thank you so very much for what you do, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you all so much. And yeah, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to contact us. We're happy to always have conversations, answer any questions. And, like I said, I'm the advocacy coordinator. I'll be around to talk to you all about, some of our advocacy needs. But we really appreciate all of your support.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Senator Webb, I'll send you a map of the farmers in Eastern Kentucky.
I think it would be good for all of us to see that, because I know I have farmers there from Christian County that have been participating, and that way if we actually if you could send it to staff, or we could send that out, and we'll also work there within our constituents that are growers and see if we can get some additional help for you as well. Our next meeting for the committee members, where you can put on your calendar, will be July 14th at 10:30. And seeing no other business, can I have a motion to adjourn?